Incoming transmission.
Hey everybody, this is Ed for Boosting the Signal, and this week my guest is Mike McCafferty. You're going to know him as the guy you know him from everything, but I know him personally from The Invisible Man, among others, and I think that you should too. Hey Mike, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm glad you have that. That's from the UK, right? Is that the UK print of the
No, the
DVD? Or...
UK one is here, and you're on
Oh,
that
there.
cover.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you made the
Okay.
cover of that one.
I made the cover of that one. Yeah. The other one, well, I think they wanted to record. Well, we did some bonus content. I was like, I got to be in the cover, man. So
Yeah,
but the other
yeah,
one's just
it's
Vinny. Yeah.
both of them have different special features. It's like you kind of have to have them both, and then I find myself every occasionally loaning out the UK version to people because they're like, "Oh, I want to see that." Well, I'll send it. You send it back. It's like old school sharing of VHS tapes, but it's kind of
Oh,
fun.
that's great. That's great. That's great. Yeah. So, well, I'm super happy to be here. You have been a fan since the very beginning. Is that right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Back in the boards and everything. The heyday. The only About the only thing I never really participate in were the meet and greets. I mean, other than online.
Oh,
So
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Where do you live?
Ohio.
Oh, okay. So that would be quite a trek to come all the way out to San Diego and like visit us on set and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. But I got to live vicariously through Joyce and other people, and so that's been nice over the years. And and every time that I have the chance to talk with you, it's primarily been about the Invisible Man, the history of whatever the case may be, throughout the years. But I've never had the chance to truly sit down and talk with you about Star Trek. And I don't know if many people are aware, but Star Trek fans should be aware that you had a podcast for 205, 206 episodes, and it ran really well. I think there's like 205 available, but and you just wanted to talk about Star Trek, and I loved it. I absolutely loved that. It's still out there, by the way. If anybody is listening and watching and wants to listen, go listen to it.
Yeah, it has graduated through a couple of different podcasting platforms. It was on Feral Audio at first, and then that guy kind of got me too'd out, I think. And then we went to Audio. No, what was it called? It was Starburns Audio, which was Dan Harmon's company,
Okay.
and then that kind of got absorbed. But yeah, yes. I've been a huge Star Trek fan ever since I've been a young lad watching the reruns, and so yeah, it's my Star Trek lore goes well beyond Invisible Man. So I'm super excited to be here and talk Trek with you. So
Oh yeah, I could talk Trek to you with you forever. I mean, yeah, you're all over the place. I'm sure a lot of people are trying to figure out right now where they know you from. Look up his IMDb. There's 88 acting credits on IMDb alone, and you're gonna go through and you're gonna see so many things. I know, like, we're currently living the documentary of one movie you were in, Idiocracy. So, but speaking of the far future and when things are better in Star Trek, what brought you to Star Trek? What is your Star Trek story, as it were? What, like, caught your attention as that young youth?
I mean, I grew up probably, I mean, it was probably, you know. In the first run of the reruns, I should say, probably like during Star Trek when it was first running in the '70s, and as a kid, it was just just full color characters running around, punching, and then other things going on, human emotion, strong human emotion, which, as they've discovered now with with kids, kids really want to see like emotional moments. It's like they want to see emotions played out, and I'm kind of just like riffing off this right now, but certainly Star Trek, especially the original series, had just like unabashed emotions. Just like, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and all the guest stars would just live in the moment and just emote so strongly. And as a kid, first of all, the four colors, the three color, palette was so strong. But then also to see people going through life and death situations or just dealing with stuff in such an overt emotional way as a child really spoke to me in some ways. I mean, like that seems like a very simplistic thing, but as I'm talking about it now, especially with like children's television and kids really want to be scared a little bit. They want to understand emotion, and that's sort of the first thing I sort of saw in that. I was like, wow, Why did they act like that? Why did they say that? So I watched a lot of that. I was also around during the animated series when it came out at CBS, which was just baffling and terrifying for a child. Like, oh, it's Star Trek, and that filmation, low effort, both in the anime. I mean, the animation was good sometimes, but it was so reused, and the music was so reused. And certainly Shatner and DeForest Kelley just kind of giving like C plus effort, lots of times in their vocal renditions, made it almost like a nightmarish thing at times, with occasional pockets of brilliance. So that's where it started for me watching that. Then the movies, and then TNG, and then I was a huge disciple of the TNG world. It hit me right at the right time during my college years and a little younger. I when it was on, this is such a long story, but I might as well just like get it all out. I love the movies, huge fan of the films. A little tenuous about TNG initially. Then The Best of Both Worlds came out, totally sold me. And back in the days of UHF, ultra high frequency television, because it was a syndicated show, TNG, they would show it all over the place. And so I could watch on a Saturday, I could watch the Next Generation episode up to 12 times a day because it would be, I was in Ohio. Actually, I was in Ohio. I was at Cedar Point
Oh,
for a couple of seasons. Yeah. And I could watch the reruns of that from Detroit and Cleveland and Sandusky and all of these channels all
probably
day. So
WGN around that time too, because WGN was a huge market for secondary TV.
very possibly, very possibly. I don't think we had cable because that was a cable network at the time, wasn't it? Or was it
No, it was
broadcast?
still UHF for a while, like, because it was the only place you could watch the Cubs for quite a while. I think it wasn't in, well, I guess in late 80s it might have hit cable, but I'm still thinking like 83, 84,
Sure.
part of the UHF. But yeah, go on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, not at all. No, I mean it was such a from a kid growing up, and again, people who love Star Trek now don't know the tenuousness that Star Trek faced in the mid '70s when the show was over. Star Trek was in a bit of a dearth before Star Wars, and it was like, is this show going to come back? It was 3 of 5 years. Is the show? I mean, those of us who watch it, is this going to be relegated to the world of like Lost in Space, and it's just such a cult classic? And then to return to TNG in its heyday, when it's on the cover of People magazine and Entertainment Weekly and all these things, and it's on every channel, and everyone's watching. And there's toys and the Target stores, like an entire aisle devoted to Star Trek toys. To go from that dearth to that cornucopia of it was just an amazing ride. So definitely during the '90s, lived and loved Star Trek. Um, and then yeah, well, I'll stop there. I'll stop there. So that's kind of my the first half of my life and my love of Star Trek.
I get you the being trepidatious about TNG at least a little bit. I remember in '87 seeing the first article about it in Starlog magazine, and at this point my knowledge was the original series, no understanding that there was only 3 seasons, no understanding in my mind at that time that the animated series was any different than the original series, nor were the books or the comics or anything else. It was all one adventure to me. And then to find out there was going to be a new show, but there was no Spock, there was no Kirk, and I was like, do I care?
Yeah.
I mean, because I was, 9, 10 years old at the time, and it didn't really grow on me, I think, until the third season. When Riker got his beard in the season 2, things started changing. But as it were. So I understand that. As for the UHF thing, very ironically, my wife and I were driving by a home yesterday out in the middle of nowhere, and I saw a house with an old like UHF antenna, and I said, "Well, that doesn't work." And it was just, I was like, "Why do they even have that?" But I just that made me think of that. But no,
It was.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, UHF. I mean, because especially since TNG was syndicated, it was a bit of the Wild West. And where were you going to find it? Where were you going to see it? That was how could you watch it? I had the finale viewing party um, of TNG. I was so excited about it. I invited all my friends over, and for a lot of the Detroit stations, it would air like Saturdays or Sundays, right?
Yeah.
But there was a Toledo station which aired it the Monday before. And so I had all my friends show up to my house, my dad's house actually, and we pulled in the grainiest, worst version of it. We had I had my big final viewing party on that Monday of all good things, and it was such bad quality, but I didn't care because I was going to be able to see it as quickly as you could. It was that dedication. So yeah, the UHF had that benefit of it's like whenever, Game of Thrones drops at 6 p.m. Like, okay, that's that feeling you'd get. It's like I hunted it down. It was some station in Toledo. So yeah, it's definitely the bygone eras, but it was an exciting time to have that almost like that secret kind of thing.
Oh, I
Um,
remember the times of trying to figure out when it was going to be on. We even here in 95, we didn't get Voyager until 96. Like
mm,
the first year of U8 or UPN, we didn't have it. It just no local affiliates carried it, so I had family members mailing me VHS tapes of Voyager so I could see that one. Um,
oh
but
wow.
yeah, luckily TNG wasn't a problem in DS9, but
Yeah, Voyager. I mean, as you talk and I talk through more of my Voyager's where I started to fall off of the Star Trek experience. And it was really, I think, to be honest, is when Seven of Nine showed up. I think there was such a gratuitousness to her appearance. I'll just say it. I'll just be honest. Like they clothed her in the most scantily outfit. I was like, oh, you guys, not knowing that in fact the show actually got kind of better. When I started watching, I was like, oh, okay, this got better. But I think you reach a saturation point. I don't know if you're watching the new stuff, but I
oh
think
yeah,
you get to a level where it's like, okay, I've had enough. I mean, even like it's like you can only have so much dessert. It's like this is so delicious, so wonderful, but there's a certain point in time it's like I gotta push back from the table for a little bit.
yeah.
And only recently have I started to go back because my kid loves Voyager, and a couple of my friends really like Enterprise, and I went back to Enterprise like, wow, this is really good. This is a lot better than I realized. And so it's a bummer because as those shows are starting, kind of having that aspect of being sort of on the surface level, being a copy of a copy of a copy, people started to fall off. And of course, UPN was doing all sorts of weird stuff. The Enterprise, the final seasons were probably the most engaging and probably what television was becoming. But by that point in time, there had been, 15 years unstopped of Star Trek. So
Yeah.
you had to push back from the table a little bit.
Burnout. It was just burnout is what it come down
Yeah.
to. It's interesting too. I've been rewatching Voyager lately, and you talk about how Seven of Nine, the scantily clad, and so on and so forth. In my rewatch of Voyager, I've hit the end of season 3 recently, and I noticed that Kess, the character of Kess, is wearing more skin tight cat suits. And it
Mm.
was like, and it never occurred to me in any of my watch throughs that she was doing that. And I was like, were they trying to subtly? I can't speak to whether or not they had Jerry Ryan cast at this point or thought of her or anything, but it's almost as if it was like a gradual transition of like, here's some sexiness, get ready, we're going here. And
Yeah.
it's strange. I mean, in retrospect, it's strange because looking at her character and the way she was dressed, it doesn't fit her character. But then, things happened. But
What year was Voyager on from? Remind me again.
95 to 2001.
So it was, and I've mentioned this before. Like so the show I was on, The Invisible Man, which Ed watched a lot of, watched all of, I should say. This is coming on, and when you say, we talk about the scantily clad women in these
Yeah.
shows, this was a fallacy that the networks were kind of going off of, and the change which was happening because The Invisible Man suffered the same thing where they were saying they're looking at the ratings and they're saying, "Man, what's going on? We are not attracting." Because we'd see the ratings every week, like and like Vincent Ventresco would like, "Oh, here's the ratings," and I'd study them, and the network was upset because, and this was in 2000, so a little bit after, but they're like, "We are not attracting the male demographic." And frustratingly, they were attracting the female demographic a lot more on our show. And what they didn't realize, what people didn't realize is that women like sci-fi too.
Yeah.
And I think their supposition that it was just all these nerds in basements was their core audience. Bo Boys and men were going to video games, but there was a large contingent of women which were watching it. So to sexualize a character for the mere aspect of titillation, we brought in a character in season two, Brandy Ledford, who's a phenomenal actress, but was also
Yes.
brought in for a degree of sex appeal because they're like, well, maybe this will boost the ratings. She's a phenomenal actress. She's a great actress, a great person, but that had the opposite intention because a whole half of your audience, if not more, was like, "What are you doing?" So,
Yeah.
including when people like me who was just like, "I know what you guys are doing. I don't like it." So yeah. Luckily, Jerry Ryan is a great actress, and she was able to carry the water on that. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand. I mean, I remember when Brandy joined the show, and like I know she's a good person. I've spoken to her. We've all had interactions, but at the time I was like, nope, nope, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. It changed the dynamic of the show,
yes.
and so and I think that for me, I didn't stop watching. So like I was still going to watch regardless because life is full of changes. Just because you don't like the way the day is going doesn't mean the next day is not going to be good too. So I was going to keep watching, but I get where people may have fallen off.
Well, and to your point, I mean, The Invisible Man was one of the first shows that had an active discussion board, and they were, the network was really curious about that, and certainly the I won't say, but the response towards her. Again, there's a large female contingent on the discussion board who were like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are?" And I don't think they had calculated that, and it wasn't. And again, it wasn't her fault. I remember one time she came to me on set and she said, "Mike, I'm seeing all of this on the boards. How can I win them over?" And the sin wasn't hers. It was in the showrunners to a degree and to the network to a degree, going off of false pretenses from decades ago, saying we need more sexualization of these characters, when in fact the opposite was becoming true. And to that point, a couple years later, what happens is Battlestar Galactica comes out with Starbuck, who is the opposite. She is absolutely a fully realized character, who's a gender swapped character, but is so badass and so cool without any of that. But they didn't see the tides changing on that. So,
It's That's unfortunate. It is. I never wanted the Invisible Man to end. I think it was premature. It may have had a decent ending to itself, but I think you guys could have gone way longer. Um, but although, even though that did happen, you've gone on to do other things, and that's great. I mean, I could sit here all day and read off the list of shows from iCarly that you've guest starred on, and so on and so forth. How I Met Your Mother. You pop up everywhere. Um, but like I said, we're here to talk about the Star Trek fandom. Um, it's and kind of in a way, like, have you ever gone out or auditioned or tried to be in a Star Trek production, an actual Star Trek production?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was one of my the one of my white whales. It's
Right.
my Moby Dick. From Hell's Heart I Stab at Thee kind of thing. To be on a Star Trek show, and I remember I was so focused on it, and I remember actually I contacted Michael Grossman, director from Visual Man. I said, "Oh, Michael, if you ever get any jobs, let me know." This is in like 2002, 2003. The next day, I get an audition for Star Trek Enterprise to be the guy, whoever the lead guy was in Section 31.
Okay.
Um,
Don't
can't
know
remember
his
his name.
name.
I
Not
ended up
you.
interviewing him. Well, I interviewed him on my podcast, just as kind of a little bit of a hate interview. He's a really nice guy. But I got to go in. I met the guy who played. Gosh, he was in Star Trek Six. He was the Klingon warden. Oh, I
Oh,
can't remember. Kind of an
okay.
English
Yeah,
actor.
I know who you're talking about. I know who you're
God,
talking
that
about.
was. but I recognized him like, oh my God, you're in Star Trek. He's like, I've been in all the Star Treks, because he was in TNG and I think he was in Voyager and Deep Space Nine. He appeared everywhere. But I got to go in, I got to audition for the people. I didn't get it. I was too goofy to be Section 31. That was fine, and Michael Grossman said he did a really good job. But that was the closest I came to that. I did get a chance to in 2016 meet with Katie Krentz, who is the head of CBS. She basically runs the development for Star Trek, and I got to meet with her and kind of get in some early talks with either pitching a story, pitching a series for Star Trek, or pitching like being on staff. So and I mentioned I'm on my podcast as well. Didn't get any further than that, but yeah, it's always been something I would have loved to have done, and I have to kind of live with the idea that maybe it won't happen, and that's okay. It's I got to do a sci-fi series on my own. I got to live that, so I'm not I mean, I think from some ways once you become part of it, you can't, you don't have as much license to make fun of it or you know excuse me, like shit talking a little bit. It's like if it's like, oh, that was a bad episode. It's like,
Oh, I don't know. I don't. Have you seen what Dominic Keating and oh goodness gracious, oh great, I can think
Dominic
Dominic's
Keating
name,
and
but on they used to do the shuttle pod that's decon chamber now,
oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
they've been going back rewatching episodes of Enterprise, and every now and then they'll shit on the show. It's a fresh take. It really is to hear from their they were there. They got to hear what their thoughts on it and stuff. It's fun. It's a really fun podcast, and they do the video while they're watching the episodes and stuff. Worth checking out, definitely. But I think if it's something that you're a part of, I think you own it to a degree. That it's okay to. I mean, yeah, I would. No, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I think you can lovingly like say like, well, that didn't work out. This didn't work out. It's yeah, they have a podcast, and then the Delta Flyers now with
I
Armin
love Delta.
Shimmerman. Yeah, it's my kid loves them. That's the other thing too. I mean, I'm glad you're doing a podcast. I slowed down and stopped because all these people they just do their own podcasts like hey, I was in the show. It's
Yeah.
but I think someone like you doing this is also great too because you don't have any skin in the game outside of your passion for it. Um, so
My
I think
thing
yeah, go ahead.
my thing is it's a chance for me to talk not only to fans, but a chance for I mean, there's a lot of people that I've been asking, like, come on here, let's talk about Star Trek, talk about your love, tell me what you're promoting, what are you trying to get out there? And like I don't see the Delta Flyers calling Bob from Idaho and asking him to come on and talk about his love of the fandom.
Yeah,
And I think that's unfortunate. I love that there are other podcasts out there like mine. Like I started this and then there are replica podcasts popping up. I don't take that as an insult. I take that as the greatest compliment because they're going to find people that I can't get to, same as I'm going to get people that they can't get to, and maybe we can somehow eventually fill in all the gaps. Um, and like I knew your love of Star Trek, and it was like I remember telling my wife from the very beginning. I was like, I got to talk to Mike. I got to figure out how to do this. I've sent an invite to Spencer. Like he and I have talked. He's agreed, but he's very busy.
yeah, yeah.
So like I'm waiting. He said, he'll email me when he's ready. But you know, and I want like I know you currently have, King of Meat is a big project that is on the forefront. I think people need to know about that. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that. We could do that right now, actually. Would you like to
Oh,
tell everybody about King of Meat?
yeah, sure. Why not? I've been an actor for a while, and then the past 10 years, I fell into being a writer. I've written a lot of like television shows, a lot of. If you watch a show called Hot Streets, I wrote a show called Hot Streets, and both myself and the creator Brian Weissel love Star Trek, and my kind of objective, if you ever watch that show, it was just to basically turn it into Star Trek. I just want to make it a Star Trek for weird animated stuff. So every once in a while, there's a Star Trek line there. In fact, we had Jonathan Frakes, who was going to be the voice of a character for the second season. And Adult Swim, we recorded him, and Adult Swim nixed him. They said no. They didn't like
Why?
his voice. They didn't like his voice for some reason. We loved his voice. We thought it was hilarious. And
It's
he played a
freaks.
little. I know. And we did everything we could to keep him on the show. We even made a cut like of all his funny lines because we recorded most of the season with him.
Hmm.
Um, we had him on the show, and but then they eventually replaced him with Ernie Hudson, and Ernie did great too. So I like no aspersions to them, but it's such a. I have a clip of that somewhere. I'll find a clip of him. He plays a tiny little jet called Jet Junior who talks, and it's very funny.
Huh.
Um, but I did that. We also had we tried to get Kate Mulgrew on the show, but she was busy doing something in North Carolina. We put out an offer to Patrick Stewart at one point in time. We got oh man, the name. Gosh, what he played the Andorian. He played he
Oh,
was in
Jeffrey
Reanimator.
Combs.
Jeffrey Combs. Yeah, I get to meet Jeffrey Combs. So cool. Just all these great Star Trek people. Doing that, I've written a lot of animated stuff, and then I sort of fell into this game called King of Meat, which just came out. This is actually a fake one. It's only digital, but I made the copy myself. We made a pilot for the TV show. It's online if you want to see it. And then from that, they used a lot of the stuff we did in the pilot to actually make the video game. They were working in concert. And that just came out this month. So you can go out right now, find it on PlayStation or Xbox or Steam and go buy it. Go buy 45 copies. I don't make any. I don't make any money off but yeah. So the past 3 years, I've been working on that, which has been a huge adventure in and of itself. Going from writing for television, for being an actor, writing for television, to writing for video games, writing content for video games, and just understanding that whole business has been a really interesting adventure for me as well. So
Well, you
yeah. So
have a
thank you
lot
for.
of hats when it comes to King of Meats. You're a voice. You've got a writing credit. Oh, I saw the screenshot you put of the game on your page, and you're in there. You're all over the place, wearing a lot of hats, as it were. So it's definitely one I want to check out. I know it's on Steam, right? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah. Combined.
the only format currently?
No, it's on Xbox, it's on PlayStation,
Okay.
it's cross-platform, so you can. It's only $30 too. Like they wanted to make it kind of. It's a party platform game. It's 4 players. Go through say a sort of medieval world that is. It's set in a different universe where it has a medieval look, but there's like television and everything's televised and everyone plays this game called King of Meat, which is like this blood sport, sort of like Hunger Games, where people run through this maze, this
Yeah.
dungeon maze where there's monsters and there's death traps. And I got to create that world, and so kind of get to be my own Gene Roddenberry to kind of make the one to one, because there was times when I'd see the game as they were developing, and I'd say, well, what's the story with that thing? They said we don't know, so uh, well then I'll create it. And so I got to kind of create this whole world and the lore and the characters, and it was very, very gratifying, to go into a world. And I mean, you're very kind for talking about this stuff instead of Star Trek, but to be able to go into a world, any world, especially if you're a creator of a show, and just say, okay, blank canvas, what are the rules? What is the world, especially a science fiction world? What happens when we get to this? And a lot of times, as you see in Star Trek, as you see when a character will come to a certain point, it's like, oh, the writers haven't thought about this, and now they're just making a choice. And so
Yeah.
that happens, especially early on. It's like the Prime Directive. It's Starfleet. What was it? It was originally Starfleet or Space Command. I
Directive
think they called it
one.
Space. Directive One, the
Yeah.
Prime Directive. I think early in the original series they called it Space Command at one point in time before they called it Starfleet Command.
Yeah.
All of this stuff gets made up kind of in the moment. And that's an exciting part of creating a whole new world on this.
Not for nothing, but it's like Kryptonite and Superman. Most people believe that Kryptonite came from the comic books, and it came from a radio broadcast, Superman radio broadcast. And it's like it was just something that they thought of on the fly, and there you go. Now it's canon, and you know
I
it's.
just read about that because the main actor was on vacation for 6 weeks and they had to recast him. Did you hear
Oh, I
about that
didn't know
part?
that. I didn't know that.
That's what I heard is that the main radio actor he was like, oh, he's going to go on vacation for 6 weeks. We got to bring in like another guy. And so they, they brought another guy and they're like, what's wrong with your voice? Oh, it's this strange material called kryptonite, which is affecting me and makes it like, sometimes you solve things out of convenience. It's
Yeah,
just it's when
a
we did the
happy
Invisible Man.
accident.
Yeah, it's a happy accident. Like you reach points. I had a conversation with on the Invisible Man set one time with the showrunners. And I was like, hey, you have my character nervous to give this guy a shot, a hypodermic needle shot, but last episode I did,
Yeah,
and the showrunner's like, oh my, oh you're right, and I said I'll give you a couple alts, of takes, and then that's like oh I mean so like sometimes it's these happy accidents, and I think that's kind of the best collaboration, right? When suddenly things just kind of become,
I think one of the
but
best episodes of The Invisible Man with you was when you the importance of Eberts, obviously, because you didn't have to play that character. You were playing an alternate version of your character, and it really definitely stretched everything. The character, it was great. Anybody that's never seen The Invisible Man, go check it out. I don't want to. I could fill up an hour of Invisible Man conversation, but anybody that's ever glanced at my arm knows I'm a fan.
got the
But
Eberts. Well,
but
that one especially, and then to give anyone who hasn't watched the show, and again, it is on the Roku channel, which is the
yes,
weirdest destination. But that the Star Trek connection with that for me is that has me playing two characters. There's a good me and there's a bad me, and there's one shot where it's actually a split screen of me, and it thrilled me so much because Star Trek, I think in the '60s, at least the original series, there was a lot of split screen characters. And my belief, I have to go back to it, but I think they had just kind of stumbled upon this idea and technology how to do this. How can we make two characters, the same actor on screen, the same actor? Because Kirk did it at least 5 times.
yeah,
There was at least 5 times when there were two Kirks, and at least 3 or 4 times when he's talking to himself. I mean, what are little girls made of? Whom gods destroy? I'm trying to think of. Let's see. Is there? Oh, Enemy Within. I mean, those are three right there where he's talking. He's literally in a room talking with himself.
yeah.
And so to be an actor where I literally got to stand on one side of the screen on a locked off camera, and have a tie, and then look at myself, and then they changed my tie and had to sit there and do the same thing. It was just like being Captain Kirk. It was so thrilling to be like, oh my God, I'm doing this cheesy conceit right here, right there in real time. So that was a great homage to play that. So you're under no directive to watch that episode, but if you watch it, know that I am secretly geeking out. It's like this is just what Kirk did.
I think
He
everybody
also
should
did it in
watch it
Star Trek Six.
regardless.
Oh yeah,
Everybody should watch it. Yeah, the now the important question is, did you get two paychecks that week?
yeah. No. Regrettably, I did not. I should have, right? Yeah, it's. I don't know if there's any. I mean, like if you do voiceovers, if you do voice characters, you have up to like 2 or 3 voices. You're paid for up to 2 or 3 voices. I can't remember what it is. And then if you do multiple voices, you do like 5 or 6 voices, then they have to pay you a little extra, or like
Right.
like half of your original fee. So my friend Eric Bauza, who does Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, he was actually my King of Meat pilot too. He gets paid all the time, and we'll just say, hey, do this voice, and that's in the paycheck for him. So, but yeah,
Yeah, I
you should get
watched the
paid.
King of Meat pilot. I think you posted the link in the group, and I checked
Oh,
it
okay,
out
great.
then. Yeah, and I was like, well, I was like, okay, I like this, but I hadn't looked for the game, but I definitely will, and there'll be a link below. Um, when you talk about voices and so forth, I think about James Doohan when he did the original animated series, and he was multiple voices throughout that. And I'm thinking he had to be rolling in it. I mean, you would hope he you would hope, but
And again, I mean, one of the reasons that, I mean, this is we can go into the lore of all this stuff, but I, well, first of all, I remember like because residuals. So actors get paid what's called residuals. If you're listening and viewing audience really cares about it, but residuals are something which sort of helps an actor from not being overused. So residuals are the idea is like, okay, you're on Star Trek, you are being seen over and over and over again. You are Captain Kirk. You are Captain Kirk. And so in some ways it works against you. In some ways, like William Shatner is always going to be known as Captain Kirk. So this happened, many years before that, like shows like I Love Lucy and shows like Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island, especially when I went to reruns, and these actors actually lost roles. And a lot of the Star Trek actors, the original Star Trek actors, couldn't find work for decades later. And so what the Screen Actors Guild eventually said is like there needs to be some sort of compensation. If you are going to show their face every single day, 365 days a year on the screen, and it is hurting their career, there has to be some sort of compensation. And so I think Star Trek only they might have gotten the residuals all the way through. I think Gilligan's Island and Brady Bunch only got like 5 runs and then they were out. So the idea of being overused, your face being overused, your face being so synonymous, I don't think that's not a consideration anymore because now we have 10,000 channels and streaming all sort of stuff. But for James Doohan doing the animated series, I don't know how much he got paid. I mean, he might have just gotten. They might have just said, "Hey, Jimmy, can you go ahead and throw in a couple lines here?" And maybe he was just game to do that.
Yeah.
So because voiceover acting, you don't get a lot of money, just to be honest. So, but he was great with the voices.
There's a an animated series people are always telling me I need to watch, and I finally did. I started checking it out, and then one day I heard your voice pop up, and I was like, I know that voice. You popped up on Rick and Morty.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know Dan and Justin. I mean, I guess I can say that. Yeah, it's we all yeah, yeah. We all did a thing called Channel 101 for years, which was created by Dan Harmon, creator of Community. Right over there's a that's not my poster, it's my kid's room. Um, but yeah, he created Community. I was also in Community for an episode, and then they did a show called Rick and Morty, and I was actually got to be the president of the Spider Universe, which was a lot of fun. They just called me in. I was just driving around one day in the valley, and my friend called me and said, "Hey, someone's doing this voice. I'm not super happy with it." He did a lot of voices. He's like, "You can just come in today and just do it." I was like, "Yeah." So I just came in. You know.
I remember when you were on Community, my wife saw you and she goes, "Is that Eberts?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yes, that's Eberts."
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
but it was you talked about Channel 101. You did Oh Shit. Oh my God, I loved Oh Shit. Those were so good. And when it went away, I mean, it's been what, 9 years, something like that, since
Yeah.
there's been a new video. But those were fun.
Oh, that and that helped launch my writing career to a degree as well. Thank you for saying that. So Channel 101, for people who don't know, was like a film festival. Sort of every month, people would submit these 5 minute or less videos. Dan Harmon was part of it. Randall Park, The Lonely Island, Jack Black was a part of it. Just if you go back to the early mid aughts and early teens, just amazing group of intelligent, smart people, intelligent, creative people making all these short films, which then later on went to bigger and better things. Aziz Ansari was in the New York version of it. And one of those things I made was a show called Oh Shit, and that was a lot of fun. And I did stop it because there again with things like The Invisible Man and Star Trek, Next Generation and Enterprise. If a show gets canceled before you're ready to say goodbye, if you were the creator of it, there's something that just it is always left unresolved.
Yeah.
So, when the guy when they ended The Invisible Man, they said they ended on a comma, not a period, which I think is an eloquent way of saying there could be more, but this is enough punctuation. And I think there's certain shows we know all the sci-fi shows which ended too abruptly, which ended on a cliffhanger, and you're like, where's the rest? And so I made it a point to say I love the show so much. I want to go out on a positive ending. But yeah, that was a lot of fun to do. My kid still wishes I'd make more too. But then we get into the reboot situation, right? I mean, do we want to? Do we? I don't know. Do you? Well, we got a chance to see it. What did you think of Picard? Star Trek Picard.
Oh, are you talking about Picard? Did you say
Yeah,
Picard?
yeah. Star
I
Trek
liked,
Picard. What?
man, I liked Picard. Here's my thing. I loved Picard the first season. As I'm watching it, I enjoyed it, and as I watched season two, I enjoyed it. But it wasn't until season three that I was like, maybe I didn't like one and two as much as I thought I did, because this is so much better. And
Yeah.
it took a little while for it to find its feet. It's not to say that those stories in season 1 and 2 were not good. They're just not to the level that 3 was. Um, but no, I liked it. I really did. I haven't gone back and watched 1 and 2. I've watched season 3 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it has a lot of rewatchability. That's like Lower Decks. I love the Lower Decks. It's fun. It can be rewatched multiple times. You don't really need to watch it in any order. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've heard recently that the newer Star Trek shows don't get as much love, and I should go back and watch Discovery. And I'm thinking about doing that.
Mhm.
But what about you? What were your thoughts on Picard?
I talked a little bit like on my pod. I was very disappointed with the first two seasons, especially the second season. The first season, and I know why. I mean, I know it's because Patrick Stewart didn't want to be Captain Picard.
Yeah,
I mean that was the hard thing is that he really wanted to walk away from that. And one of the things he said is like, I don't want to be on the bridge of the Enterprise. And it's like what a strange conceit to say. Okay, this is a show about a character. It's almost like the Frasier reboot, right? I mean, as we return to these shows and Night Court and all of these reboots, Will and Grace, Mad About You, all of these shows, it's like, is this the same show? I mean, is this, as you revisit something, Star Trek 2 did the perfect revisiting of characters. How have they aged? How have they changed? What is, I
yeah.
think Picard tried to do some very interesting things in the first season. We all have to agree that Captain Picard is actually dead. He is
Oh
actually
yeah,
dead.
yes, emphatically, he's dead.
He died in the end of the first season, and what we see now is a robot with his consciousness, and
Yes,
so that is a robot, sort of like Roger Corby in Where the World Ends
exactly.
May. Yeah, he's the Roger Corby of this. So that to me, and then the second season was just such madness because they were working in the middle of COVID. They were trying to do it in LA. It was just such an ungainly mess. And then season three, and maybe I mentioned this to you, that like from what I heard is Terry Matalas went to Patrick Stewart's house. This I heard this from my friend who had talked to Matalas because he dumped on the show. My friend did a review of the show and said, "Man, these seasons are bad." And Matalas came over. He said, "Hey, watch season three at my house." And he said he marched over to Patrick Stewart's house and he said, with a bottle of wine, said, "We got to do Star Trek. This third season, we got to do Star Trek." And so instead of getting all of these characters like gosh, like Riker and Troy, like they lost a kid and
Yeah,
like all this trauma core stuff with your characters. No one is happy. I mean, like, what are we doing? Why do we want to see? It's like coming back to the Star Wars movies, and like the First Order's back, and it's like, haha, like nothing, like Luke, Leia, Han, they did nothing, and they're all unhappy, and Han's unhappy, and Luke's unhappy, and Leia's kind of in this weird space because everything failed. I don't want to see that. I want a victory lap. And so when the third season came around, it's like, okay, this is I want to see everybody. I want to see them on the Enterprise.
yeah.
That's what you want. I want to see them playing poker for an hour. That's all I want to see. So I think it took them two seasons for me. I mean, and I can be very very judgmental on this stuff, but the first two seasons were just really a struggle to watch, and then the third season I was like, okay, this is a great starting point, and then they were done. So yeah,
I
and I was
think
like, okay,
in hindsight, I agree 100%. But like I said, when first watching it, it was new Star Trek. I was like, oh, this is Star Trek. I got new Star Trek,
yeah,
And every week, you wanted, you know, you wanted that great episode. I think with season 3, you got a great episode every week.
yeah,
I could not pick and choose a flawed episode for that. If nothing else, it was justice for Beverly Crusher. I mean, Gates McFadden had the best season of any Star Trek series that she's been on.
sure,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
It, I mean, if they're going to come back, that you should utilize them, and especially the first couple of seasons, it was just kind of like. Now, I will say, I mean, the first and second season too. Again, there were so many. There's shows which want to run on plot, and for your viewers, and this is something that you find out when you're writing television. Television consumes plot at a breakneck pace. I mean, like if you've got a great idea, man, boom, it's gone. It is consumed. Like, it's just so gone. And especially that first season of Picard, where there's so much stuff that just comes and goes. There's like the Romulans with the weird triangles, and there's the Borg, and there's all of this, and then like people coming and going. There's just because they were just trying to run so fast on all this plot, and they just couldn't keep up with it, and the characters were just being thrashed about. Whereas I think the third season had the ability to sit with the characters and kind of examine who they are and what's going on and where they're at. I will say that the Beverly Crusher stuff was good, although the stuff with her son and all that was I could have done without. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to set up like like the further adventures of Jean-Luc Picard Jr. But
Legacy.
the Legacy, Star Trek
Yeah.
Legacy. And at the very end of the show, they unrang the bell of season 2 of Killing Off Q.
Well, here's my thing. I've been thinking about that one for a couple of years, and
Okay.
and a couple of people have said similar things. The Q themselves are omnipotent and they are non-linear. So Q died, and there's nothing that said that Q didn't go back to that time to die. And the Q that we see at the end of Picard season 3 just isn't that same Q at a different time period. It's kind of like Sam Beckett in Quantum Leap bouncing around through time. If he's Sam Beckett in the 60s, Sam Beckett in the 90s before he leaps is still there. It's so that's the way I kind of look at it, with taking another genre or show and putting it in there. But
I mean, sure. I will. I teach screenwriting in college, and I will say the same thing I say to my students sometimes when they try to justify some moments of stuff. I say, you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the writers.
yeah,
You are coming up with solutions for them when really, like, why did Q have to die in the first place? Like, I mean, because they had an end goal. It's like, oh, we want to have this beautiful moment at the very end of this long, ridiculous season of Star Trek. I mean, my God, I mean, the Borg Queen had a song. I mean, I just, they're running around. There's like, ICE agents detaining people. There's like, they're saying, don't break don't go back in time. And then Revis is like, see you later. I'm going to stay in this time. I mean, everything of that. And I know why they did that.
yeah.
I know why, because they wanted to get that last scene of Patrick Stewart and
John
what's
Delancey.
John Delancey having a tearful goodbye, which is great, but is it worth the journey? And that's like they were end gaming it in some ways. They're saying let's get to this, let's rush to this, and and then we have to do all the mental gymnastics, and Star Trek fans do that all the time. We
Yeah.
always retcon stuff and say no, it's just because of this and this, and that's fun. That's a lot of fun, but with so much resources on their side, why do we have to do that? Only for them one season later to say, I'm back, and then you have to do all the mental gymnastics. So
I,
it's
I
it's
I think a
I
lot of it, maybe they just didn't know. Maybe they thought maybe it would be the end. You know, who knew what Terry Metalis was going to do? I don't know.
yeah.
You know, who knows? But you're right. The mental
No, I
gymnastics.
don't have to be right on this stuff. But that's if like peeling back some of the layers as an actor, as a writer, kind of in the business and knowing sometimes like why things are done and why things are undone. There are certain, I mean, like, Marvel does it too. All these shows, all, which have huge backstories, huge lore, sometimes have to unring bells. And I get that. And certainly, gosh, I mean, what is it? On Strange New Worlds, we just saw Trelane doing something or other with Spock. And it's like, I guess Spock and Christine Chapel had a long tenured relationship. And, I mean, at times you just have to kind of put your brain to the side and say, okay, just enjoy it. But then it's a disservice. It's a difficult line. How do you manage that? I can see them going back and saying, hey, you know what, the Metrons, maybe we'll go back and see them again because this and this. Like, okay, it's fine, whatever. But to go back 1 year later and say he's not actually dead,
Yeah.
that's then why did we? You don't ever have to watch the second season. You're relieved of that. You're relieved of duty from watching the second season. because it's been nullified because he comes right back and he says, the journey never ends.
Well,
The
there's so
trial
many
never ends.
aspects of season 1 and 2 that are completely cut out. Rios is gone. There's no mention of him. There's no mention of. Let's see. This is how bad it is. The kid, the Romulan kid that was with
Yeah,
him.
I
He's
know you're
not
talking about.
there.
Yeah.
It's like so. Yeah, you could skip season 1 and 2 and be like, "Oh man, I love Star Trek Picard. That whole season was great." Uh, just one, but
Yeah. But that's okay too. I mean, again, like shows have to find their and this is the problem we run into as well. And here I am just kind of browbeating the show. The original show just hit the ground running and was amazing. The original series, season one and all the way up to like midpoint of season two was just amazing television, and then fell off.
yeah.
Whereas a lot of the subsequent series, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, needed a couple seasons to find their legs, and we can't afford that for shows anymore, can we? It's like,
No.
and then there's shows like Discovery, which I don't think they ever found their legs. I don't know if I ever knew what that show was. I don't think they ever did either. So,
The Discovery itself, I thought it got better in season 3 when they jumped ahead.
mhm.
Um, but like 4 and 5 are solid seasons. Um, this is something I tell people all the time. My absolute favorite piece of Star Trek writing ever is a short trek that they did starring Aldous Hodge called Calypso.
Yep, yep.
Um, the best 15 minutes of Star Trek ever. And when Discovery wrapped up, or not wrapped up, but like set up Calypso at the end, chef's kiss. As far as I'm concerned, they stuck the landing. And 4 and 5 were good. One and two are solid. There are some really good episodes in season one, um, like the butcher's knife cares not for the lamb's cry. It's
Hmm.
a fun title, but a really good episode as well. Um, so yeah, I mean, but you're right. You don't have time with 10 episode seasons to have filler episodes. It's not like go back 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I'd say is a good buffer in there where you had 22 to 26 episodes a season.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore. And then and maybe it's better that we don't because it causes the writers themselves to focus on quality over this, but it suffers because we don't get character, and that's the one thing we're missing is like I want to know more about this character. Well, sorry, we got to get over to here, you know. But
I agree with that. I agree with that. I think Discovery, again, trying to speed run through a lot of the through so much plot. I mean, they ate the captain. They ate Captain Giorgio. Like in like
yeah,
episode two, right? I mean, like that's a big ticket. I mean, mirror universe. I mean, you're going to that card so quickly, and evil Lorca and evil Giorgio, and so many, so much that you have to process on that. Whereas you're right, like three or four episodes just sitting in place and just doing something that's just character based, and with the asterisks as well because. I loved season one of Strange New World. I think it's some of the best Star Trek in decades. But then season two and season three really fell off because they really wanted to do all the fun, wacky stuff, all the strange in Strange New Worlds. And when you have 10 episodes and five of those are like, a wacky episode, it becomes what is this now? So I think the season one finale of Strange New Worlds is one of the best Star Trek episodes I've ever seen. It's top five. I can't remember what it's called. Let's see. Well, whatever it's called. It's where they kind of go back and they do the balance of terror. It's kind of they integrate with balance of terror
yes,
and all of that stuff. Amazing, amazing. Um, but I think I'm trying to understand what's going on. Like if it's a younger generation of writers who who've watched sort of a snapshot of what Star Trek is in the past. But they didn't do all the legwork. Maybe I mean there's 800 episodes of Star Trek now, right? So
900 and plus. 900,
900 plus.
900 plus.
Wow. How can you do all the work? How can you go back and watch all of them? So you have to get a sampler plate. You have to go back and you watch the best of them.
Yeah.
And you say like, oh, well, okay, so we got to do a mirror universe episode. We got to do a trouble triple episode. We've got to do a best of both worlds. Yeah, but what about the middle ones? What about the ones that are just just okay, or even the ones that are bad that have that nugget in it? They're like, oh, that little piece, you know?
There are episodes like in the middle that I think are, in my personal opinion, higher rated. Like I look at the episode that had David Ogden Stiers in it, TNG, where he reached a certain age and it was ritual suicide or whatever for their
Yeah,
race. One of my all-time favorite episodes, and I reference that all the time, and there's so many nuances within that episode that I think just needed to be studied. Like you could probably break down an entire podcast on that episode itself. Um, and pacing is so important too. And I think with TNG and Enterprise did it really well too. Pacing was really well done. Voyager too. Don't I want to exclude them. The newer shows, the pacing is so much faster. Like I can't tell you how many times my wife will say, that seemed too fast. Like the
yeah,
whole episode went by too fast. And I said, this because they're getting so much shit said so fast that you're not having a chance to process it. Whereas TNG, you'd have Geordi going to visit Data, like, let's talk about your cat,
yeah,
and as crazy as that is, those are important moments. And like, we love that cat because of that, that cat that's been dead 25 years. But and that's something that the new shows are missing is the pacing and the heart. It's not a fault of the writers, I don't think, unless it is like you're saying they're going to AI and they're saying, "Hey, give me a synopsis of what Star Trek is." And an AI is like, "Well, Han Solo met with Captain Cisco," and I'm like, "No, no, that's my dread. That's what I dread."
that
But
that that will be coming sooner than we all want. But to your point, the where the humanity will come in is in those moments, those imperfect scenes where it is, Jordy talking about Data's cat. Now, I mean, ostensibly, there's always a purpose for every scene, but the wraparound of that is like, what are you doing? I'm looking for my cat. My cat's blah 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 blah. Hey, have you heard about this? It's like, what do you think we're going to do about David Ogden Stiers? Doing this? It's like, I don't know. It's like, and then at the end, it's like, well, we have to make a choice, and then like they leave, and then something else with a cat. It's almost like a sandwich sometimes. It's like what a good scene has like what they're talking about on the outsides, the moment at hand. It's like, oh, we've got to find my cat. We've got to find my cat. And then the middle is the emotional core of what the characters really want to talk about. I don't know if I can ask Captain Picard to do this. I don't know if that's, well, he would, whatever that is. And then at the end, they come back to the cat. And those are so useful and those are so human. Those are so organic and those are things that humans notice that robots won't.
the one thing that I do want to come back to is, in the same breath, I want to mention like Terry Matalas did a great job with season 3 because we had those moments. You think about Todd Stashwick and his character sitting in the bar talking or telling him the Wolf 359 story, and just a moment, quiet moment while
Yeah.
all this is happening. And that's what I think made Picard season 3 so great.
Yes.
We did get
It,
those.
and him and that's another great point. And it's funny because like as you talk about all the great characters, revisiting all these characters, but Todd Stashwick as Captain, what was his name? Captain somebody. So Captain.
Liam
But
Shaw.
oh yeah, Captain Shaw. Yeah, a character who's finally to a degree holding Picard accountable
Mhm.
for the events of Wolf 359. I know now Cisco did too, but he had found some sort of resolution at the end of the pilot episode. But someone who's like, wait, this guy killed like 39,000 of us, and he just gets to be captain. And what a great level of accountability holding him to it, while still through a professional, you know, gauze, saying,
Yeah.
I don't want to be here with you. But what a nuanced, great character who has his own issues, but can also broaden and create depth for our existing characters. That was a really, I mean, in the same ways like as Star Trek 2, where it's like, no, you marooned Khan on that
Yeah.
planet. Now you have to answer for it. Now you have to. What's the accountability? And so Picard's finally being met with that. And here we'd gone decades without him ever having sort of accountability for it. No one ever called him out and said, "What the hell is he doing as captain of the flagship of the Enterprise?" I mean, it doesn't matter that he was brainwashed and he's okay. I think about that sometimes with with Marvel with Bucky, the Winter
Yeah.
Soldier, who's
Now
now
he's a
like a
governor
U.S.
or something.
He's like a congressman. I'm like,
Yeah.
did we not forget that he like murdered a bunch of Americans and he was brainwashed and could still be brainwashed? And it's
Yeah.
I guess it's all okay. So those kind of like things but they're great because they add such depth to the characters.
Yeah. I thought of something while you were saying that, and I was going to interject with something, and I was like trying to think what it was. We were talking Picard, and you threw me off with the Bucky comment. Um,
Oh,
and it's okay, it's all right. Whatever it was, I was just going to go on a tangent, I'm sure, or
oh
I'll
yeah,
remember later and I'll text you. But I should probably wrap this up. We're getting close to your out time, and
yeah. I gotta
I
go talk to
uh,
computers.
I think we hit about an hour here, haven't we?
We're pretty close. We could go. I mean, I feel like we didn't geek out enough about Star Trek that we could have. Like we could have like. So what's your favorite series? Is it TNG?
Oh,
Is it?
I'm a Deep Space Nine guy. My
Oh, okay.
I've always been a really big fan of Cisco. I can't see it, but I have a whole Cisco section behind me, and um, always been a big fan of Avery Brooks. And yeah, the everything I wanted it all. I looked at him. I think I looked at the father son aspect of the character, and it was the father that I wanted to have. Like I watched that
Hmm.
going, man, I wish that guy was my dad. Like,
Oh.
and Sirach Lofton himself, the actor that played his son Jake, from what I've seen in interviews, like had remained close with him through the years, and I love that. It shows that there was a connection, and Avery looked after him, and it says something to not only his character but his character of his character. And
Mm.
so I always appreciated that. Not that I don't love Kate Mulgrew or Patrick Stewart. The thing about Kate Mulgrew, when I was watching Voyager too, like I always looked at her, and I am gonna get ridiculed for the wording, but I looked at her as that old lady that was the captain of the Voyager. But now as I've gotten older, I'm like, she's that hot lady that was in charge of the Voyager. It's like, hey there, how's it going, Captain? But as you grow up, you respect things and people for different ways. And that's. But I mean, I'm going to assume you are a Kirk guy. Um, would I be correct in that assumption?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's. I grew up on the original series, but then I really fell hard in love with TNG for sure. Really embraced that. Deep Space Nine, I really loved, although it was in conjunction with Babylon 5.
Mhm.
This obviously. The
Oh yeah,
correlations and the connections and the like. Great idea, JMS. But where it's a pass, and then yeah, what do you know? We have a show that's almost identical to that. Um, but yeah, Deep Space Nine was especially towards the end when they got the real like basically got to do Babylon 5 with a bigger budget. Like the Dominion War and all sort of stuff. Just everything that you want. Like, oh, this is so great.
it
But yeah,
was the Shadow War.
yeah,
It was the
yeah,
war.
that's right.
Yeah,
The Shadow
yeah,
War. Yeah,
yeah.
without all the weird like you got 4 seasons, now you got 5 seasons, all that sort of nonsense. Um, but yeah, I think those two shows, especially were kind of my definitely my wheelhouse. And the movies in between were great. Just watching all those, that's kind of. But again, Strange New Worlds just absolutely. It's some of the best Trek I've seen in a while. So like the first episode and then the last episode of the first season, so strong. And there's definitely some some winners in every season. I think I liked the Gorn one they just did in season three. I thought that was nice.
Oh yeah, with Ortega's, that was a great one.
That was a great one. I like the one with Kirk's First Command. I thought that was pretty good too. I
Yep,
can't remember which, with the Farragut. I think that was really
that
nice. So
was the Salot who ate its own tail.
yes, yes, very good. Yeah, that's so there's such a plethora of Star Trek now that it's we can all find, and that's the nice thing too, is that like we don't have to be I don't have to be a guardian of Star Trek anymore and say, well,
No,
you're not a real Star Trek fans. Like I can be the guardian of my forever, of my my domain, just as you are. And but it's a welcoming gate. It's like, oh, you like Star Trek? Have you ever watched this episode of the original series? Or how about this one? Did you know the Naked Time and the Naked Now actually have a connection? I mean, like all that kind of stuff. We all have our wheelhouses now, and so it can become this big inclusive universe of stuff, which is so exciting. That's the exciting part about it. So as long as they
yeah.
keep on making Star Trek, the tent gets bigger.
Have you checked out the podcast of Khan?
I have not, no. Have you?
Yes.
And do you
Yeah.
like it?
In fact, I listened to the latest episode right before we started today. I
Okay.
love it. I look forward to it so much. No spoilers, but I will say it is the best Star Trek writing I think we've had in 10 years.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Not to
Worth,
get too cute, is there retconning in it?
well, it depends. I'm going to say no and yes. There is subtle explanations of things that were referenced by Khan in Wrath of Khan that are expanded upon
Hmm.
with gaps filled in. And I haven't heard if this is canon. Like, I don't know if this is canon or if this is being treated as beta canon. I can say honestly, Naveen Andrews, the gentleman that's voicing Khan, would make a wonderful live action Khan.
Mm.
Um, I cannot think of the actress who's playing Marla, but MacGyver's, but she
Okay. Yeah.
is she's the redheaded lady from For All Mankind. Remember the
Okay.
one? Have you watched For All
I have
Mankind?
not watched that one yet. No, I've not.
Okay,
So
I won't. I can't spoil that. I almost spoiled it. Okay.
okay.
Oh, I recommend it. It's a wonderful series. Even if it's like you don't have Apple TV or whatever, just wait till a free weekend and binge it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
But anywho, Con would be great live action, and I think if it did, it could then they could say, "Oh, it's canon," but it's really good. It's really well done. Um, I mean, George Takei's in it. Kim Russ is in it. It's well done, just well done. So I
I'll,
don't want to
I'll,
spoil
I'll
anything, but
okay.
even like you went for a run today. How long is your run?
Not long enough, 20 minutes. So
20 minutes. There you go. That's
yeah.
an episode. You like if you pop it in, you could hear an episode while you're running.
All right. Well, I'll give it a try. Off your recommendation, I'll give it a hot one episode. How about that?
That's good. I
Oh,
think you'll be hooked.
all right.
So,
Fair enough. Fair enough. So,
but well, I do want to give this a natural end, Mike. I want to wrap it up, but I want to give you a chance to promote anything else you want to promote. Tell anybody where they can find you, or whatever you want to say. The floor is yours for the last five.
oh no, I'll just say I don't need to promote anything. It's a joy to be able to talk Trek, even though it doesn't sound like it sometimes with me. Like I am so passionate about it, and but it's my kind of analytical mind working on this stuff, and I'm glad that you are continuing this, that you are continuing the mantle of just wanting to talk about Star Trek. And to everybody out there, I'll just say, see you out there. To end on the perfect Q exit line.
I like it. Sounds good. And if you ever want to talk Star Trek, you got my number. Just let me know. But yeah,
Yes.
and so I appreciate your time, and I will say, everyone, boost the signal. Check out Channel 101. Go back and find it. Check out King of Meats. go to the Roku app and watch The Invisible Man, because then you can talk to me about it too, and I can answer any questions you have. Trust me. But so, and thank you for your time, Mike. I appreciate you.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Ed. It's the honor is mine. So thank you, sir.
I'll live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.